Today, we are taking a deep dive into a story that pulls off a pretty incredible magic trick in under 500 words. We're reading The Big Guys, which is a piece of flash fiction that actually took home a Derringer Award.
Yeah, and for anyone listening who isn't, really deep in the crime fiction world, the Derringers are essentially the Oscars for mystery short stories. Yeah. So it signifies that the writing here is incredibly tight. This was originally written for the Small Bites anthology, which was a charity project for the author Charles Grant.
Which is so funny because that feels completely at odds with the actual content of the story. I mean, this piece is just cruel.
Yeah.
We are looking at two neighbors, Ralph and Jim, and they are heading out on a yacht into great white waters for a shark fishing trip. But right off the bat, the dynamic feels really off. Jim actually says, "I didn't think you liked me."
Right, and that is the crucial setup. In flash fiction, you just don't have time for a slow build, so the author uses that line to immediately flag the tension. Ralph plays it off, insisting they are friends and that their wives are close. But he is actively disarming Jim using social pressure. The desire to be a good neighbor, to lure him into a trap.
Yeah, and once they are on the boat, Ralph gets very specific about the gear. I wanted to pause here because he forces Jim to wear this complex harness. He tells him this clips onto the rod so you don't lose it, and this end is attached to the boat in case you get pulled overboard.
Exactly, in case you get pulled overboard. This is that economy of language we talk about. In a longer story, that might just be world building, but here, every object is a Chekhov's gun. That harness is presented as a safety device, but mechanistically, what is it actually doing?
It is tethering him. If he goes over, he cannot swim away. He is completely stuck to the hull.
It creates a closed system. Ralph is physically securing his victim to the crime scene under the guise of occupational health and safety.
And then there's the chum. Ralph hands Jim a bucket of bloody fish guts that stank to high heaven and has him start ladling it out, calling it a shark magnet.
Which creates this visceral sensory distraction. Jim is entirely focused on the smell and the task, allowing Ralph to control the environment. And you have to note the transition here. Ralph scans the horizon. Why does he do that?
To make sure no one is watching them. And the second the coast is clear, the nice guy mask drops completely. He pokes Jim with a fillet knife and just shoves him right over the rail.
The shift is jarringly fast, which really mimics the sudden violence of the act.
Yeah, Jim is just dangling there in the water, screaming and trying to grab the boat, but his hands are slippery from the fish guts, and Ralph just watches him. This is the moment he drops the motive, telling Jim it wasn't very neighborly of him to be sleeping with Ralph's wife.
It is such a clean way to handle the exposition. We don't need a flashback to the affair, because the violence is the explanation. But notice Ralph's next move. He doesn't just drive away. He pours the rest of that bloody chum bucket right onto Jim's head.
That is pure sadism. He tells him to keep struggling because the big guys love a moving target. He is literally turning Jim into the lure.
And that connects back to the title. The big guys aren't the men. They are the sharks. Ralph has orchestrated this entire morning just to convert his neighbor into bait.
But the real kick in the teeth is the dialogue at the very end. Jim is in the water and he sees a dorsal fin coming. He begs for his life, yelling out that Ralph said he considered him a good friend.
Which is exactly why the story won the award. Ralph corrects him. He laughs and says, "Sorry, wrong choice of words. I actually meant to say I considered you a good chum."
Man, that just recontextualizes the whole trip.
It is a linguistic trap that perfectly mirrors the physical trap. The entire story hinges on the duality of that one word. The author hid the murder plot in plain sight using a simple homonym.
It makes you rethink the entire beginning. When Ralph said he wanted to hang out with a good chum, he was being completely honest. He just wasn't using the definition Jim thought he was.
That is the real danger of assuming you speak the same language as your neighbor. A single word can pivot a story from a bonding moment to a murder scene, depending on who holds the dictionary.
Well, on that terrifying note, think about the everyday words we throw around that might have a completely different meaning to the person smiling right back at you. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Stay safe out there.